Okay, so today we'll start seated. And we'll start seated. Start with a wide-legged straddle, not as wide as you can go. And you can just face forward on your mat. So mat's going straight forward. You'll take the right foot and bend that leg, but you want the right foot to be in the center. So it's not like you're bringing the right foot over to the left thigh. You're trying to point those toes straight forward. And we're all going to be a little bit different with how this lands in our body. So half butterfly. It's a yin pose. We'll start with this one. So from here, you'll just reach the left arm over the left leg, reach the right arm up and over. So getting into the side body to start, take it easy, especially if this is the first movement that you're doing all day and the body's cold. It's a nice gentle stretch to start opening up. And the right hip stays down. And that right arm can be extended. Some of you might like bending the arm and just bringing the hand behind the head. Sometimes it's a different shoulder opening that can feel good. So either one works. Right arm reaches up and over. If you bent it, come back up to center, facing forward. So we're just going to face straight forward. Legs stay the same. Hands can come down in front of you. And you start to fold forward over this right foot. You don't need to go that far. Close the eyes. Let the head and the neck go. See where gentle is for you with this shape. Breathing in deeply in through the nose, back out through the nose. So dropping into your practice, which means dropping into your breath. And start to walk the hands back in, coming back up to seated. Right knee just comes back to center. You extend the right leg out, and it's not as wide as you can go. Grab onto the back of the left thigh, bring the sole of the foot so that the toes point forward, foot about in the center of the body. And then from here, we'll start with that side opening. So right hand down the right leg, left arm reaches up and over, slowly coming in. And if you liked it on the first side, option to bend that elbow, just bringing the hand behind the head, keep reaching that left elbow up and over. And then left arm extends up and over. Stay here for a couple of breaths. Back up through center, turn the chest to point forward, and you'll slowly start to fold forward. Keep the legs the way that they are. Chest is going forward in the same direction as those left toes if they're pointing forward. And start to walk the hands in. This time we'll do a Badakanasana. So bring the sole of the right foot in to meet the left foot. Toes and feet are in the center of the body. Sit up tall, and now you can fold forward over both legs. So you can hang onto the ankles, maybe the inner edges of the feet if you feel open enough for that. Elbows can flare out to the side, and they can even rest on the legs if you fold forward a little deeper without pushing it. This is a great hip opening, but it's nice to start with just half, do side to side, and then come into the full symmetrical pose. And you'll come back to center. Use the hands to bring the knees back together. And seated on your mat, just start to bring the feet in close. So grab onto those shins, bring the feet in close, hang on to the knees, and then maybe you start to float the feet away from the mat. So they're not coming up very high. You're just playing with trying to find that flat spot that's just right above the glutes where you can balance. Once you have it, squeeze the thighs together, reach the arms forward, palms facing up, and then you can lift the feet in line with the knees. And the legs start to go away from you a little bit. Some of you like to have straight legs. Some of us like to keep the legs bent because it takes things out of the hip flexors. Chest is lifted, so is the gaze. So you're in Navasana boat pose, and we're taking it to Ardha Navasana. So come down to the mat without touching the heels, and then reach the arms overhead. On the exhale, inner edges of the feet together, knees wide, reach forward. So similar shape. That's what your exhale is. Inhale back to where we were. Extend the body long. We're just going to keep doing this. Exhale, bend the knees out wide, soles of the feet together, reaching forward. Inhale, extend, get long. Exhale, hug the core in, round the spine. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl, get those knees as high up as you can on the arms. Inhale, extend, 2 more. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend, last one. Exhale, curl. This time, inhale, extend, reach the arms forward, palms facing up, come back to Navasana. See if you can find that same spot, keeping the chest lifted. Then come to seated, easy cross-legged seat. Doesn't matter which shin's in front. Hands to the knees, sitting up tall. On an inhale, come forward over the right knee and then the left knee. Exhale, round the spine. So Sufi rolls, going in the same direction, right to left. Eyes open or closed. Next time the chest is over the left knee, just pause there and reverse the direction of the circles. Go the other way. Same breath, inhaling forward, exhaling back. One more circle all the way around. And you'll come back up to center. Bring the hands back behind you. Switch the crossing of the legs, bringing the other shin in front. Maybe you move side to side a little bit so you feel even on the sit bones. And we'll take a really gentle twist. So right hand can just rest on top of whatever shin's in front. Left fingertips back behind you, but maybe not all the way back. Just go part of the way and sit up as tall as you can, twisting to the left, shoulders away from the ears. As gentle as you can be where you still feel the twist in the body and still have plenty of room to go if you wanted to push it. And switch sides. Left hand on the shin in front of you, right fingertips back behind you, but maybe not all the way back, just maybe 3/4 of the way or less. And back to center, coming forward onto hands and knees, tabletop. So as you come forward to hands and knees, stack the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees, step the right foot back behind you. We're going to keep both hands on the mat. Lift the right leg up just to hip height. And then turn those right toes out to the right. So you're opening up the hip. Take an inhale for a little bit more length. On the exhale, right knee, right tricep. So you're bringing it forward, chest reaches forward. Inhale, extend. You can keep the toes pointing out. Exhale, right knee, right tricep. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bring that right knee forward. Inhale, extend. Last one. Exhale, bring that right knee as high up as you can get it. Inhale, extend. Set the right knee down. So same thing, other side. Start with stretching the left toes back behind you, firing up that leg. Lift the left foot up just to hip height. Turn the toes out. Inhale, extend. Exhale, knee to tricep. And it might be elbow. Inhale, extend, or maybe it's wrist. Who cares? Bring the knee forward. Inhale, extend. Exhale, knee to the arm. Inhale, extend. Bring that knee forward. Maybe it gets a little bit easier as you warm up the oblique. Inhale, extend. This is the last one. Exhale, knee connects with the arm. Inhale, extend. Set that left knee back down onto the mat. Take downward facing dog. So walk the hands forward ahead of the shoulders, tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. And it's your first one of this practice. Once you have the feet hip width distance apart or wider, you might like movement. So if you do, take whatever feels good. A bend in the knees is a good idea for almost all of us, but not mandatory. It's whatever gives you the most length in the spine and helps you open up the legs. So this is a big pose for the legs, really the whole body, but some of us feel it more in the legs if we're tight there. And then from downward facing dog, look forward, bend the knees, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold back down. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're coming all the way up to standing. Circle the arms on the inhale. Bring the palms together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, bring the hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose. Once you have plank pose, slowly lower all the way down. So with control, maybe even count and take a full 3 seconds to set the body down. Tops of the feet come to the mat. Let's do a wide cobra. So hands come off the mat. You tent the hands coming up onto the fingertips, getting the elbows in line with the shoulders. Tops of the feet press down, still hip width distance apart. Point the tailbone back, and then you can lift and spread the chest. So the wide cobra gives you a little bit more height if you want it. Exhale, release. Let's do 2 more like that. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Last one. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Hands come back in by the lower ribs on the mat. Tuck the toes. Take child's pose. Bend the knees. Big toes together. Sit the hips back, forehead down. And focus on the upper body opening here. So once you get the hips where you want them, crawl the fingertips forward. Pull those shoulders away from the ears so that the neck feels like it has space. And then you can widen the shoulders across the back as you bring the arms together. Keep that upper body, just look forward, downward facing dog. Tuck the toes, lift the hips. Start to put a bend in the knees, looking forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Bring the palms together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga, cobra, or up dog, whichever one you feel ready for. Tops of the feet are down. Elbows hug in. And then exhale, release, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step walk, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms on the inhale all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat, stepping back to plank pose. Lowering down halfway, chaturanga, cobra, or up dog. Down dog. One more Surya Namaskar A before we move on. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms up on the inhale. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, bend the knees, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway, cobra or up dog. Exhale, back, down dog. A few breaths here in downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come into chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. In your chair pose, hips go low, but the chest reaches up and we hug the core in. Keep a focal point straight in front of you. Start to shift forward onto the balls of the feet, lifting the heels up high. So trying to get the heels up over the balls of the feet. Keep control of the outer ankles. That'll help you hold everything in, especially if you have wobbly ankles like me. Then set the heels down onto the mat, back to chair pose, come all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Bring the hands to the hip bones. So get the first two fingers on your hip bones. You're doing that to keep the hip bones pointing forward the whole time. Find a drishti, some kind of focal point straight in front of you. And then shift the weight over to the right foot, lift the left heel. Hug that outer right hip in and the lower core lifts up. Sole of the foot comes inside the ankle. If you're ready for a bigger tree pose and a balancing pose, you could start to bring the foot up inside the calf or go all the way into it. Grab the foot, bring it up as high as you can get it to the inner thigh if that's feeling good today. You just have to gauge it, see what's working. Sometimes it's not always there. If the arms reach up, go for it. You can always keep the hands together in front of the chest. But those hip points are pointing forward. They want to go to the left and follow that left knee. So it doesn't matter how much you open up that left knee. It matters how much you point the hips forward. Then bring the hands together down in front of the heart. Point that left knee straight forward like you're going to take a big step. So the sole of the left foot is engaged. And then you're taking this to crescent pose. Go slow, bend the standing leg, reach back with that left foot and land it off to the left a little bit so you have a nice wide stance. Arms reach up, crescent pose. Back leg stretches back behind you. You can always put a bend to get space in the lower back. Don't feel like it has to be all the way straight. Shoulders away from the ears, but you're still reaching up. Then spin that left heel down flat. Warrior two, right foot comes in a little bit. Spread the arms out wide. Both legs are working evenly, head right over the hips. Extended side angle. You could either do forearm to thigh, reach the left arm up and over. If your hips feel open enough or you have a block, you could do right hand outside the foot. Left hand comes down to the mat. Come onto the ball, the left foot. You might need to widen the feet a little bit so you can step that left foot forward. Top of the mat, forward fold. Let the head and the neck go. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back into chair pose. I almost said tree. Chair pose. Inhale. Okay, so find your focal point, your drishti. Make sure the weight's in the heels. You have the core hugging in and the chest lifted. You want to keep the height of the chest so it doesn't feel like everything's sinking down toward the mat. Now start to shift the weight forward, lifting the heels up. And you're using the balls of the feet, trying to get the heels up as high as you can. Legs are also working so hard, chest is still lifted. Set the heels back down to the mat. You're in your regular Utkatasana chair pose. Come all the way up to standing. Hands come together down in front of the heart. So I like playing with that chair pose right before a standing balancing pose, especially since we're jumping right into tree. Fingertips on the hips. Find your focal point. If it's changed, that's fine. Just make sure it's something that's not going to move. Shift the weight over to the left foot. Lift the right heel. Keep those hip bones pointing forward. Find tree pose on this side. So you have plenty of time to explore. Our balance sometimes is different side to side, definitely day to day. So see where it is today. Don't be judgmental about it. Just work with it, adapt. And whenever you feel ready, reach the arms up. If that's happening, you could bring hands in front of the heart or keep the hands on the hips if that's more helpful. Then bring that right knee straight forward like you're going to take a big step. So there's energy in the sole of the right foot. Take your time transitioning to crescent pose. Go slow, keep it stable. Core is hugging in. You reach the right leg back, land the foot down on the mat softly, and then rise up with the chest, the arms. Up to you what you do with the back knee if you want a little bit of a bend or a straight leg. Just listen to your lower back to keep the space there. Shoulders pull away from the ears and you widen the shoulder blades across the back, which means that the thumbs kick out a little bit and pinkies can come in. That's a nice rotation for those shoulders that gives you plenty of space. Take this to Virabhadrasana 2. Right heel down flat, left foot comes in a little bit. Badakanasana, extended side angle pose, maybe forearm to thigh, right arm up and over, or maybe the hand outside the foot, maybe on a block. Right leg is reaching down through the mat, so try not to get too heavy in the left leg. Right hand comes down to the mat, come onto the ball, the back foot, widen the stance a little bit, step that right foot forward, inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Vinyasa is here if you want it, or you can just go straight back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Shift the weight forward into the balls of the feet. Lift the heels up high. Use the whole body to find your stability. Set the heels back down on the mat, still in chair pose. Come all the way up to standing. Hands come together down in front of the heart. Bring the hands to the hip bones. Find that drishti in front of you. Shift the weight over to the right foot. Tree pose. Sole the left foot wherever you need it to be. You can still play with all of the options to see what's happening this round. Maybe the arms reach up. Maybe you keep hands down in front of the heart. Left knee points forward. Keep that energy in the sole of the left foot. Like you're going to take a big step forward, but we're coming back. Crescent pose. Take your time in the transition. Lift the chest up when you're ready. Find your Anjaneyasana crescent pose. Open it up, warrior two. So playing with a lot of hip opening today. I hope you're feeling that. We started a little differently, and now we're getting into these standing poses where they are hip openings, even though you're standing on your own 2 feet. So that right knee is going straight over the second and third toe, and the hip is right behind the right knee, so it's not swinging out to the right. Extended side angle, whatever version makes sense, maybe hand down, forearm to thigh. Both are great. And left hand comes down, come onto the ball of the back foot, widen the stance, step that left foot forward, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back to chair pose. Reach the arms up, bend the knees. Whenever you're ready, keep that focal point in front of you. Shift the weight forward to the balls of the feet. Lift the heels up high. Chest is still lifting, core is engaged. Then set the heels back down to the mat, chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Tree pose, hands to the hips. Stay with your focal point. This time you're standing on the left leg. Sole the foot inside of the ankle, calf below the knee or above the knee. So really important to not apply pressure sideways to our knees, which is why you keep the foot above or below. Arms can reach up. Right knee points forward about hip height. Fire up the right foot. Take it to crescent pose. Virabhadrasana 2. Left hand outside the foot or left forearm to thigh. Right arm reaches up and over. Extended side angle, Badakanasana. Both sides of the torso long, so it's easy to find the length on the right side. Make sure you can find it on the left side too. Right hand comes down. You're on the ball of the back foot. Maybe heel toe the left foot out to the left. Right foot steps forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, hands to the mat, bend the knees. Vinyasa, if you want one, on the way to downward facing dog. Few breaths in Adho Mukha Svanasana. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. So a little different this time. Just find your chair pose. We're not coming up onto the balls of the feet though. So keep the chest lifted. You'll look down toward the toes. Make sure you can see all 10 toes. You'll shift the weight over to the right foot, lift the left heel. This time, left ankle, right thigh. So standing pigeon. So you lift that left knee. You're crossing the left ankle on top of the right thigh. Once you have it, hands together in front of the heart's really nice. So you can just sit back and focus on the legs. It's a big hip opening as you're standing. Left toes are pointing straight so that you flex the foot to protect that left knee. And if you feel like the right hip's going out to the right, which is probably happening for almost all of us, you got to hug that outer right hip in. And then we're taking this to tree pose. So come up to standing. You want to grab that left ankle or the foot. Maybe it comes inside of the thigh, or it could be below the knee. Don't feel obligated. Reach the arms up. Vrikshasana. Maybe it slides down. Left knee points straight forward. Take it back. Crescent pose in your own time. Open it up. Warrior two. Extended side angle. Any version with the arms. Hands down to the mat, onto the ball of the back foot, widen the stance, left foot steps forward, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back to Utkatasana chair pose. Weight in the heels of the feet, reach the arms up. Keep the height of the chest, just look down, shift the weight over to the left foot, lift the right heel, right ankle, left thigh. Make sure before you lift the foot, you have that left hip behind the left knee so it doesn't swing out to the side. Then once you cross the ankle on top of the thigh, maybe the hands come together down in front of the heart. I love this version because then you're not thinking about the upper body so much. You can start to open up that right hip as you sit and focus on the legs. Gaze needs to come forward, right hand, right foot or ankle, tree pose. Come up to standing, bring the sole of the right foot inside the leg. Maybe the arms reach up. Vrikshasana. Right knee points straight forward, energy in that right foot, crescent pose. Go slow, you don't want to go too fast and lose your balance. Open it up, warrior two. Extended side angle. Hand comes down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, widen the stance a little bit, step that right foot forward, forward fold. Then from here, your forward fold, just walk the hands forward so they're underneath the shoulders. And then come back like a third of the way on your mat. So I'm all the way at the top of my mat. I need to walk back a little bit so that the hands are on the mat and the feet are on the mat. Bring the heels in, toes out, and then bend the knees. Heels will lift, but they're still touching. So you're coming into a hip opening. And then start to walk the hands forward. Get the chest as low as you can and let the head and the neck go. So it's like crow pose. It also kind of feels like child's pose. It's a really nice hip opening for the whole bottom half of the body. And then there's a rounding of the upper half of the body. So feel how the spine is rounding. And then you can hug the core in and lift the pelvic floor here. And that brings a little bit more strength to the pose. Head and neck are relaxed. All we're doing is staying here for the hip opening. We will play with crow next round. Then start to walk the hands back in underneath the shoulders, straighten the legs, heels go back, Walk the feet forward up to the top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Any way you want, back to downward facing dog. Maybe that means a vinyasa. Maybe that means skipping or modifying. Down dog, few breaths. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. Keep the chest lifted as you bring the gaze down. Shift the weight over to the right foot, lift the left heel, left ankle, right thigh. Hands can come together right in front of the heart. You can press into the hands to keep the chest open. Open up the hips. So you bring the hips down and square the hips forward, keeping that left foot flexed. Tree pose. Left foot inside the right leg. Keep the gaze forward. Maybe you reach the arms up. Left knee points forward, sole of the left foot active. Take your time, crescent pose. So when you go slower, you build all that strength. Ball the back foot lands, reach the chest up. Open it up, warrior two. Extended side angle. Hands to the mat on the ball of the back foot, heel toe the right foot out to the right, step that left foot forward, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, come back to chair pose, Utkatasana. Look down at the feet, shift the weight over to the left foot, lift the right heel. Whenever you're ready, right ankle, left thigh. Hands can come together and you focus on the hips and the legs. Square the hips as best you can. You'll feel that outer left hip hug in, core hug in, chest reaching forward. Then start to bring the gaze forward. Grab that right foot, Vrikshasana tree pose. Arms maybe reach up. Right knee points forward, crescent pose. Warrior two. Extended side angle. Hand down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, widen the stance, right foot steps forward, inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back to chair pose, bend the knees, reach the arms up, and then lower the hips, lift the chest. Keep lowering the hips, lifting the chest. You're coming down to the mat. Lower the hips, lift the chest. Maybe you lower them without using the hands. Ooh, Navasana. That one always makes me laugh. All right, Ardha Navasana. Extend the legs. Same thing we did to start. Reach the arms overhead. Inhale, get long. Exhale, inner edges of the feet together. Bend the knees, reach the arms forward. Inhale, extend. So you're practicing crow on your back, firing up the core. Exhale, bring the arms forward, bend the knees. Inhale, extend. And it definitely feels like this. Exhale, come forward. Two more. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. So you're rounding the spine, reaching forward. Inhale, extend. This is the last one. Exhale, bring it all in. Inhale, extend. Arms reach forward, palms up, back to Navasana. Okay, 2 ways to get to chair pose from Navasana. You can just use the hands and stand right up to chair, or grab onto the backs of the thighs and then rock forward and back. This also just feels good if your spine's okay with it, maybe 3-4 times, but you're trying to build up enough momentum to come back to chair pose. Good. All right. Fold forward, walk the feet back about a third of the way. Heels in, toes out, bend the knees, heels lift up high. Start with that crow stretch. Just walk the arms forward. Hug the belly in around the spine. Maybe you stay here. If you want to play with Bakasana, crow pose, you're totally set up for it. Your hips are open. Your core is turned on. So see if you want to take it to that next step. If you do, you look forward, you keep the chest as low as you can and walk the hands back until the legs stop the arms. Then you crawl the knees up as high as you can. So the lower the chest, the better. Fingers are spread wide, index fingers turned out. Then you lift the hips. So you're coming up onto the balls of the feet, shifting the weight forward into the hands, still keeping the toes down. Lift the pelvic floor. You find that rounding of the spine. Maybe one foot lifts, maybe both feet lift. But as you lift the feet and you bring them together, you squeeze those arms with the legs and press out into the knees with the arms. Always looking forward. If you look down, you'll go down. Then set the feet back down to that crow stretch. And then we all come back up to standing, toes point forward. You can walk the feet up toward the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back. Vinyasa, it's the last one on the way to downward facing dog. You can just go to straight Adho Mukha Svanasana if you want to and skip the Vinyasa. One more deep breath in through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth, let it go. Child's pose. Knees down to the mat, big toes together. Sit the hips back, forehead comes down. Arms out in front of you or maybe back behind you. You just did an arm balance. They've been worked enough, so it might be a nice rounding of the shoulders to keep the arms back. Then hands right underneath you so you can lift the head and the chest up, bring the feet over to one side, and we'll play with bridge pose today for our back bend. So scoot forward. If you have a block and you want to do a supported bridge, you just set that next to the hips. Lie all the way down onto your back, walk the feet in, press into the soles of the feet to lift the hips up. Grabbing the outer edges of the mat like you're going to rip it apart is a nice way to do bridge pose. But if the shoulders feel open, you could interlace the fingers underneath you, lifting and spreading the chest. And slowly start to release. Bring the hips back down to the mat. Rest here for a couple of breaths. We'll do 2 more rounds of back bends. If you have a block underneath you and you're in supported bridge, you can stay there for all 3 rounds, and it's still up for grabs if you want to take it in the second or third rounds. Next, inhale, lift the hips back up. Find the arm variation that feels the best. And next exhale, you'll bring the hips back down to the mat. Let it all go. Third and final bridge pose when you're ready. If you're taking something deeper, that's fine too. Press up on the inhale. Find your best version of bridge pose today. And slowly release. Bring the hips back down to the mat. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Leave that left foot where it is on the mat. Then switching sides. Left knee comes in, right foot down on the mat. Both feet down on the mat, scoot the hips over to the right, bring the knees to the left, find an easy spinal twist. So it's the end of your practice. You can explore as deep of a twist as feels good in your body. So this is where you don't stay away. You don't do a gentle twist. You go into a deeper one. We didn't do a lot of twisting though today in our practice. So it doesn't have to be the deepest one you've ever done. Deep for now. And you'll switch sides. Use the feet to find center on your back again. Then scoot the hips over to the left, knees to the right. Left arm reaches back behind you. Coming into the twist, going the other way. You'll start to make your way onto your back again. Two options for your hip opener. Option A, stay on your back, cross the right ankle on top of the left thigh and take thread the needle, which will feel really nice because it's such a familiar shape. Or option B, come from soles of the feet on the mat, rolling over to one side, taking downward facing dog to transition to single pigeon. So some people prefer one hip opening over the other, or maybe you just don't want to get up, and that's fine too. If you're taking single pigeon, that right leg lifts up and back like three-legged down dog, and then bring the right shin forward. You want that right knee to come out to the side of the torso. If it's not going out to the side, there's not as much of a hip opening. And this right foot, for some of us, it feels good to have it back pretty far. Some of us can get it really forward so that the shin is perfectly parallel with the top edge of the mat. So find where your pigeon pose is. Don't force yourself into one that doesn't make sense for your body. Squeeze the hips together so you feel like they're side by side and then fold forward. If that right hip is lifted, it is nice to put something underneath it to support it. Whatever you have, block, blanket, pillow. And then I love putting a block underneath my chest. Some people like to put it underneath their head. You find your pigeon or on your back for thread the needle. Thread the needle is always a good default hip opener. And definitely if you feel anything in the right knee, you want to come on your back and do thread the needle. And if you're in thread the needle, you can take your time switching sides. If you're in single pigeon, bring the hands underneath you, lifting the head and the chest. Transitioning back to downward facing dog. Once you get to downward facing dog, you can either pedal out the feet or just move that right leg, however feels good, getting the circulation back into the hip before you transition sides. So left leg reaches up and back, bring that left shin through, left knee out to the side, scoot that right leg back, scissor the hips till they're next to one another, and then start to fold forward. Supporting the left hip if there's a big space there, and coming back in on this side. And if you're in single pigeon, that right big toe points straight back, so it's not pointing in toward the center of the mat. And that just helps give you a little bit more space on the lower back. And if you're in thread the needle, set the feet back down to the mat, rest there. If you're in single pigeon, start to bring the hands down to the mat, lifting the head and the chest, setting any props off to the side, come back to downward facing dog, move that left leg around, and we'll all eventually end up seated on our mat. So if you're on your back from thread the needle, roll over to your right side, come to seated. If you're in down dog, bring the knees down, feet to one side, coming to seated with the legs extended out in front of you. So one last opening for the back body. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up, and on the exhale, fold down over the legs. Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. And come back up to seated, all the way down onto your back. So bend the legs, lie down onto your back. Today would be a really nice happy baby day. We did all those great hip openers. Hug the knees in toward the chest, open them up wide, and then grab onto whatever's there. Maybe that's the backs of the calves, the ankles, inner or outer edges of the feet. You press back onto the whatever you have with the hand. You can rock side to side if that feels good in the body and playful. Otherwise, you can hold still. Keep those hips going down toward the mat. And even here, knees are wider than the torso. So that's the hip opening. Knees wider than the torso. Soles of the feet shining up toward the sky. So feet are flexed. Then bring the knees in toward the chest. Close the eyes. Take a big inhale wherever you are. Pause at the very top of that inhale. Sip in a little bit more air through the mouth. Exhale, Shavasana. Extend the legs out in front of you, arms down by the sides. Complete release of effort. If you're taking a seated meditation instead of Shavasana, now's the time. Finding stillness wherever you are. And experiencing those sensations, still working through the body from all those poses. You'll start to bring your attention and awareness back to the breath without moving the body other than with the breath. Take a deeper breath in through the nose, back out through the nose. Start to wiggle the fingers and the toes if you're on your back. Reach the arms overhead, stretching on your mat. Walking the feet in, bending the knees. Rolling on over to your right side, cradle the head and the arm. See if you can keep the eyes closed. Left hand presses down to bring you up to an easy cross-legged seat. Sitting up tall. Bring the hands together in front of you. Keep the lift of the chest as you bow the head, taking a moment to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you. Hope those hips are open and you have a wonderful day.